Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to March. This is Chris with your weekend update for March 4th. And as always, this is not a substitute for the daily avalanche forecast, so be sure and check that out each day before you head into the backcountry. So we actually had a few things happen this past week, so let's dive right in. Before we get to the warm, wet storm we had, I just wanted to remind you that we actually had some pretty cold temperatures last weekend. We were well below zero in the valley bottoms. So quite a shift we went to in just a few days as we got into the wet, wild, and windy storm Monday and Tuesday. That storm produced a number of wet slides, not surprisingly, but also some slab avalanches. And we'll show some footage of each of those. And after that storm, we got into some very warm temperatures. So let's dive right in. So the storm Monday and Tuesday, there was an atmospheric river that a lot of us are familiar with. These seem to produce a lot of precip in our area. This one was passing to the north of us, so just kind of grazed us, but did bring some very warm temperatures and some precipitation in the form of rain and snow. And that targeted the northern part of our forecast area, and Banner Summit received the most precipitation as it was closest to the atmospheric river track. So that began Monday afternoon, and the rain line rose up to 85 to 9,000 feet. So we received rain up to those elevations. We had moderate to strong westerly winds, and we did get upper elevation snowfall above those elevations I just mentioned. In the Wood River Valley, that was really little to nothing. Galena Summit picked up about 2 to 4 inches above 9,000 feet, and Banner Summit received about 6 to 10 inches. So this is the lower Titus station showing the temperature plot over the past week. I have that storm highlighted there, and you can see that it was hovering right around freezing or even a little bit above freezing as we got down to the end of that storm. And as we're all painfully aware, we did get some rain in the valley, a fair bit actually fell in Stanley and rained up into the mountains too. So never a great thing in the winter. And when we do get rain on snow, it almost always produces some kind of avalanche activity. And we did get a number of wet snow avalanches that ran during that storm across the forecast area. Here's a photo taken on Tuesday, I believe, of some of the wet slides in the Banner Summit zone. Some taken with better weather on Wednesday. This is near McDonald Peak in the southern Sawtooths. This is up Pole Creek, kind of behind Galena Summit. This is on a due north aspect at 9,100 feet. So that wet snow or rain triggered the wet loose avalanche here. And then as it ran downhill, it actually entrained some of the dry, weak, sugary snow that was beneath the newer snow and rain. In the Wood River Valley, we had some avalanches that were triggered by a little bit of rain that fell, the warming temperatures. And as many of you know, in the kind of lower and mid elevations in the Wood River Valley where the snowpack still exists, it's pretty much just a pile of sandy facets. So once those get wet, a lot of these wet, loose slides are just running right down to the ground and all that weak snow. That storm did produce some persistent slab avalanches up in the Banner Summit zone, where there's a combination of more snow sitting on the weak facets that have formed during this prolonged dry spell, and more snow that fell in this storm. So Ben shot these on this photo, I believe, on Wednesday with a little better weather. So you can see these aren't breaking very deep, maybe a foot to 1.5 feet at most, but some of these are breaking quite wide. You can see some pretty good propagation as these are breaking hundreds of feet across. And I shot these a little bit further south down the ridge from Banner Summit. Seemed like most of the avalanches were pretty close to Banner Summit and Bull Trout Point, if you're familiar with that. But we did see some slab avalanches even closer as you headed further east towards Stanley, or south and east towards Stanley. And we also did see a few wind slabs, not a ton of them, but a couple. This one is in the southern Sawtooths. You can see that pretty classic wind slab broke right at the ridge crest there. And a little bit of a bigger slide near Savior's Peak in the Smoky Mountains. This one broke a few hundred feet wide, and kind of right beneath the cliffs there, kind of a fuzzy photo, but you should be able to see the crown. So maybe a bit of an outlier here. We didn't see any other activity like this in the Galena Summit and Eastern Mountain Zone, but definitely kind of an eye-opener about what can happen with some of these lingering wind slabs that are sitting on the weak snow that's formed during this long dry spell. So moving on from that storm, Wednesday and Thursday were exceptionally warm. Got into the mid 50s in town and up into the mid 40s, pushing 50 even in the mountains. And that triggered even more wet loose avalanches, especially in the Wood River Valley. This is video somebody caught of a slide running down into the Big Wood River off of Bella. So that was on Wednesday, March 2nd. So in combination with these very warm temperatures, we were getting cloudy weather and above freezing temperatures overnight. So we were just getting a wet snowpack around the clock. And in a closed area in the Sun Valley Ski Resort, the ski patrol was able to trigger some wet loose avalanches out of some kind of mid-elevation shady terrain. So what's in store for the weekend? Let's start with the weather. Starting tonight, in fact, it's already starting to snow in a couple portions of our forecast area. Unfortunately, tonight's storm is starting to dwindle as we speak, but we are still hoping for 1 to 2 inches of snowfall through tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be much colder than it has been, and we may see some north winds by tomorrow afternoon into Sunday. So you can see a little weather forecast there down for Galena Summit at 9,400 feet. And you can see good chance of snow showers tonight into tomorrow. And then mostly sunny into Sunday and Monday with much colder temperatures than we have seen. So those colder temperatures are going to lock up the snowpack pretty well. But let's talk about what other avalanche problems we can expect. So it's likely to see a mix of low and moderate danger through the weekend. There are still the lingering threat for smaller persistent slab avalanches in the Banner Summit Zone. I'll kind of touch on that here in a second, but you did see those photos of that just a few minutes ago. There's still kind of that lingering isolated wind slab problem in our northern zone. So basically Galena Summit Zone, Sawtooths and Western Smokies in the Banner Summit area. And we'll talk about that again in a second. And like I mentioned, wet avalanches are going to be much less likely as the snowpack freezes and locks up fairly hard this weekend. So as I mentioned earlier in this update, Copper on Copper Mountain and the Banner Summit Zone, that area has received a bit more snow during the dry spell and has formed a bit of a slab on top of the weaker snow that's formed over the last 6 or 7 weeks. And I went out looking for that yesterday and found weaker snow buried about a foot deep. Here you can see there's a fairly obvious stripe of surface hoar down about a foot. I also found facets at that same location. And here is an extended column test showing this slab breaking at 12 taps. So they're a nice clean break on some buried surface hoar. So this layer doesn't exist everywhere. It's maybe not a widespread problem, but it is out there. The slab is, maybe 1 to 1.5 feet deep. So it's not going to be a big avalanche, but really more than you want to tangle with. So really it's time, even though the danger is moderate in the Banner Summit Zone, it is time to take a little step back there and use a bit more caution on steeper slopes. And then we also have the lingering wind slab problem in our northern zones. And this has sort of been a problem that's plagued us all through this long dry spell. Every time we get some wind or a little bit of new snow, we start to form wind slabs on top of the weak faceted snow that's formed during the dry spell. I got some cracking here in Grand Prize, which is up Pole Creek. This is on Wednesday. I did a slope cut with my snowmobile and got this cracking here about a foot down. So yeah, again, not likely to be a big avalanche, but something that could definitely surprise you. So that's all I got for you. Hope that gives you a little feel for what you're going to run into this weekend. Have a great weekend. And as a friendly reminder, rain in the winter, just say no. Thanks for watching and let us know what you see out there and have fun.